In this web tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use Google Books, um, which is widely used today to help find literature on various topics. So first go to Google Books, books.google.com, and in the search field, type in a keyword on a topic that you're interested in finding literature in. I'm interested in Jamestown. Hit enter. Now you can already see that I wasn't specific enough in my search. It's brought up 9,750 results. That is far too many to search through. So I need to narrow things down a little. So I'm going to say Jamestown Colony. I'm not interested in Jamestown as a modern city. I'm specifically interested in the colonial period under the English. Hit enter. Somewhat better. It's narrowed down to about 3,000 results. Still rather too many to search through. Let's say I'm interested in one particular aspect of the colony. I am interested primarily in Pocahontas, one of the more famous people associated with the colony. Narrowed down to about 1,300 results. So you can see that by adding keywords to the subject field, you can quickly start narrowing things down, which is a great help, because the thing about Google Books, and which is why you have to be so careful when you're using it, is that it doesn't just bring up scientific literature. Google Books brings up all books. And you have to be able to distinguish between what's scientific literature and what's not. If it's not scientific, you can't use it in a paper. I've already pre-selected some of the things that a search for Jamestown Colony brings up so that I can show you some examples of what you need to look for and what you need to avoid. First of all, we have this book, To Have and to Hold by Mary Johnston. And we can see that it's been published by Start Publishing. That indicates to me that this book is probably fiction. It's a romance novel. Start Publishing is a company that authors, usually new authors, use to publish their works generally online as ebooks. And you can see indeed over here, buy the ebook, €1.76. Written in the first person, the work of the day being over, I sat down upon my doorstep. You have dialogue. This is a novel. It's not scientific literature. Then we have things like this. Now this is not fiction. It's nonfiction, but that doesn't make it scientific literature. It is indeed about America's first permanent English settlement, following the failed settlement of Roanoke. But we can see by just looking at the cover that this is not aimed at university level researchers. It's in the American Milestone series. It's got approval from Learning Magazine. The cover is a collection of interesting images designed to appeal to a younger audience. We've got a little blurb from the author, trying to make Jamestown sound so interesting, and history in general. This is for younger readers. It is not scientific literature. She's going to present a series of facts. For example, here we have a timeline of events relating to Jamestown. Then we have things like this. Shmoop history guides will appear on Google Books. Now, the Shmoop guides are aimed at university students, or at the very least, high school students in the 11th or 12th grade, so towards the end of middle bar. But again, it's not scientific literature. It presents facts, and it will often present really good background information, but it doesn't present debates, and they do not list their sources. Furthermore, the Shmoop history guides do tend to avoid anything considered controversial. For example, the fact that the early settlers were at one point forced to engage in cannibalism in order to survive. That's not in the Shmoop U.S. History Guide to Jamestown and early colonial Virginia. It's considered too controversial a subject, so it's often avoided even in university level classes. This one looks promising. Jamestown Colony, A Political, Social, and Cultural History. So we scroll down to take a closer look. It's got clear authors, named people, which the Shmoop guides don't. However, looking at the publication information page, you can spot a problem. It's listed in the Library of Congress cataloging as an encyclopedia. That means that it is not scientific literature. Encyclopedias present information that the authors or the editors have collected, but which is based on other people's research. They're not presenting the actual research. They're distilling it for you. That is not scientific literature. Now, it can be useful to get background information, and if it is well put together, it could possibly, in some instances, be cited. And you can see it is indeed set up like an encyclopedia. The entries are arranged alphabetically. There are sidebars, some selected writings. That's pretty good for an encyclopedia. Appendices, a bibliography. That's also pretty good. We get to the acknowledgments, and in the acknowledgments, the authors thank the researchers whose information they've used or who have helped them in putting this encyclopedia together. So the authors are not themselves researchers, not in a scientific sense. And here we have the note about the sources, and they've cited specific titles. But it states, because the primary source material surrounding the Jamestown colony has been published so many times and so many versions across such a span of time, the authors have not scrupled to provide citations for the many quotations given in the texts of the entries. That means that you can't cite any of those quotations because you don't know where they've come from. This is one of the reasons why encyclopedias are of very limited use. They're not scientific literature, they're more like reference literature, like dictionaries. So useful, but not what you're looking for at this level. Wikipedia is also throwing up things like this: colonial settlements in North America, New Netherland, New Sweden, Jamestown, Virginia, Edgewater, New Jersey, Plymouth Colony. Please note that the content of this book primarily consists of articles from Wikipedia or other free sources online. This is also not going to be scientific literature. You may as well just go to Wikipedia, which has its uses, but at the end of the day is completely anonymous. As an encyclopedia, it's even more limited than this one, the one that we just looked at, Jamestown Colony, A Political, Social, and Cultural History. This one has authors, editors. You know who has put it together. You know their qualifications if you read it. It does contain a bibliography. As a reference guide, I would advise that you use this over this or a regular Wikipedia article. You should not cite Wikipedia in scientific literature. It's not a source that can be cited. Then we have things that are actual scientific literature, like this book by Helen Rountree, Pocahontas, Powhatan, Opechancanough, 3 Indian Lives Changed by Jamestown. Scrolling down, we can see University of Virginia Press. That's an academic publisher. That's what they specialize in. Now, that is not to say that everything that comes out of a university press is the end-all and be-all of a subject. It's not. They can publish bad things as well. At the end of the day, it's up to you to evaluate what you read and what its value is. However, universities do try to weed out manuscripts that are of lesser scientific quality or value because they have a reputation to maintain. Look at the table of contents. There's a preface, an introduction, appendices, notes. So not footnotes, but endnotes, which you would expect to find in scientific literature that's not in article form. Publishers that are publishing books as opposed to articles prefer endnotes to footnotes. A bibliography, an index, that's always useful. And another sign of something that is probably of scientific value. However, at this point we reach the problem. Some pages are omitted from this book preview. That means that you will have to go one step further. You have found a piece of scientific literature. You can see in note numbers, always a good sign. So you have found this, it's good quality, it's on something that you're interested in, Pocahontas in particular, and her relationship with the Jamestown colony. But you can't see the entire thing. A certain number of pages have been omitted. That means that you can't cite from this either. You have to be able to see the entire book. If you can't see the entire thing, then you don't have any way of knowing what the nuances of the author's work and opinions are. For example, if Professor Roundtree says on one page something that sounds very interesting, but then you can't see the next page and her thoughts have continued, you don't know at the end of the day what her opinion on that is. You could quite possibly wind up misquoting her. That's why it's not safe to use book previews. You really need to see the entire work. That's where Ghent University Library comes in. Now, our library is very extensive. There's always a chance that something you have found on Google Books may be available in our own catalog. So come to lib.ugent.be, search the collections. I'm just going to type in the author's name, which is distinctive enough that should we have anything by her, it should come up. No. We don't have anything by her, so we don't have this book. What can we do? Do we go back to the preview on Google Books and use it anyway, being well aware of the dangers in doing so? Or do we make an attempt to get the book still through our library? Because even though we don't have it in our collection, a library nearby may have it. And that brings us to interlibrary loan. Now, to use interlibrary loan, you have to be signed in to the library website. So I'm going to hit sign in. And I'm going to sign in via UGent. And I have a CAS account, so I don't have to retype my username and password. Now, under the little welcome to me, we have options. My loans, my request, new document delivery, sign out. This is on the English version. On the Dutch version, it's new document levering, IBL. So I want to bring this up. Click on it. It opens, and what you see are 3 different forms. You can request an article, You can request a book. You can request a chapter from a book, which is useful if what you're looking for is one specific chapter from a collection of essays or articles by different authors. Then you don't need the entire thing. You just want that bit. They'll photocopy it, scan it in, send it. However, in this instance, I want the entire book. So I'm gonna hit request book. Now, the things with the asterisks, that is the bare minimum of what the library needs in order to find what you're requesting. So, type in the author, generally last name first, comma, then the first name. Then you want the title. Simply come back to the other window, hit copy, it's Command C, Command V to paste it in. There you go. You didn't have to spend all the time typing. I'm not looking for a particular edition. The publisher is University of Virginia Press. Place of publication, that would be Richmond. Check the year. These aren't things that they're absolutely insisting that you add. There's no asterisks besides them, but the more information you give them about the publication, the easier it is for them to find. I want to check the year of publication, so I come back up here to the publication information page. Copyright 2005, first published 2005. So you come back over here, year 2005. If you want, you can always add the ISBN. One thing that you should always do, if you are looking for a particular volume, that is a particular book in what is part of a series, like 3 books that actually make up one big book. Those smaller books, those are the volumes. Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. Always make sure that you fill in volume if that's pertinent to your request. Now, you must check Ik ben bereid voor deze dienstverlening te betalen. This is not a free service. So always be certain that what you're ordering is what you really want and need, because you will be asked to pay for it. You can click here to see what the price list is. It's not exorbitant. It's actually very reasonable, all things considered. You can pay for cash at the Book and Torrent. Check it, otherwise your request will not go through, and then hit Aanvragen. Once it has come in, a notice will be sent to you in your email account, which is a required field. Also, you could put in your telephone number and a notice will be sent to your phone when it has arrived. One thing you must always do before coming over to IBL to request things, you must always check our catalog first. It's often the case that we may have something and the people who work in the library services can get extremely irritated by requests for things that we already have. It's a waste of their time. So make sure that we don't already have it or have access to it through an online database, okay? So that's how you should use Google Books. Just be extremely careful about your search results. When you look at something, be clear in your own head. What is this? Is this scientific literature? Is this a reference work? Or is it fiction? What type of reference work is it? Is it quality? And if it is scientific literature, is it quality? And is it something that I really need and can use? Google Books is a fantastic tool. It brings so many works within our reach, but you have to use it carefully.